Welcome. Prepare to journey into ancient northern myths tonight, carefully crafted to guide you toward deep relaxation and soulful sleep. Tonight, we begin the Children of Odin, exploring the majestic realm of Asgard and its powerful gods. This isn't just a story, it's an invitation to connect with ancestral lore, gently retold to calm your mind. But there's a reason our unique visuals are unlike anything you've experienced before. Our carefully chosen red and long wavelength visuals are specifically designed to honor your body's natural sleep cycle, preserving melatonin and creating the perfect environment for profound rest. How does a simple color hold such power to soothe and prepare you for dreams? Stay with us to discover the ancient wisdom within these tales and the science of true relaxation. Allow the whispers of Asgard to guide you now. If this journey brings you peace, please like this video and subscribe to Luminous Lore and Rituals for more myths, meditations, and soulful practices. Sweet Dreams, Seeker, The Children of Odin, The Book of Northern Myths, by Padraic Colum, Part 1, The Dwellers in Asgard. Chapter 1, Far Away and Long Ago. Once there was another sun and another moon, not the Sol and Mani we know now, but different ones with the very same names. Behind each of them, there followed a wolf. At last the wolves caught them. They devoured Sol and Mani. Then the world lay in darkness and cold. In those days the gods still lived. Odin and Thor, Hoda and Baldur, Tyr and Heimdall, Vidar and Vali, and Loki, who could do both good and evil. The goddesses were there too: Frigga, Freya, Nanna, Iduna, and Sif. But when the sun and the moon were destroyed, most of the gods perished as well. Only a few remained: Vidar and Vali, sons of Odin, and Modi and Magni, sons of Thor. Baldur had already died before those last terrible events. Men and women still walked the world then. Before the sun and moon were devoured and before the gods' doom, great calamities fell on the earth. Snow lay on the four corners of the world and kept falling for 3 seasons. Winds swept everything away. Those who survived fought one another, brother against brother, until people were no more. There was besides another earth, green and beautiful. But fierce winds tore down forests, hills, and homes. Fire followed and burned the land. Darkness reigned, for Sol and Mani were gone. The gods met their doom. All of these events belong to a single time: Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. Afterward, a new sun and a new moon rose and traveled the heavens, lovelier than the first and with no wolves in pursuit. The earth grew green again. In a deep forest, spared by the fires, a man and a woman awoke. Odin had hidden them there and left them to sleep through Ragnarok. Her name was Lif, his name was Ulfraser. They walked the renewed world, and from their children and grandchildren the human race was reborn. Of the gods, Vidar and Vali remained, and Modi and Magni. Vidar and Vala found tablets the old gods had left behind, records of all that had happened before Ragnarok. The people who lived after Ragnarok were no longer plagued by the terrible beings who had once waged war against the gods and destroyed the older world. Chapter 2, The Building of the Wall. There had been war between the giants and the gods. Giants who would destroy the world and humankind, and gods who would protect men and make the world fairer. Many stories follow about the gods, but the first one to tell is how they built their city. The gods climbed to the top of a high mountain and resolved to build a great city the giants could never overthrow. They named it Asgard, the place of the gods, and chose a fine plain on the mountain's summit. Around that city, they wished to raise the highest and strongest wall that had ever been built. One day, as they began to raise halls and palaces, a strange being came to them. Odin, the father of the gods, spoke first. "What do you want on the mountain of the gods?" he asked the stranger. "I know what the gods have in mind," the stranger replied. "You will build a city. I cannot build palaces, but I can raise walls that cannot be overthrown. Let me build a wall around your city." "How long will it take you?" asked Odin. "A year, O Odin," said the stranger. Odin understood that with a great wall the gods need not spend all their days defending Asgard. Protected, Odin himself could go among men to teach and help them. No payment the stranger might demand seemed too high for such work. The stranger came before the council and swore he would finish in 1 year. Odin swore in turn that if the wall were finished to the last stone by that day, the gods would give him whatever he asked. The stranger returned the next day, the first day of summer, and began work. He brought no helpers but a great horse. The gods thought the horse would merely haul stone. Instead, the horse did far more. It placed the stones and mortared them. Day and night, in light and in dark, the horse labored, and the great wall rose swiftly about the palaces. What will he ask for his reward? The gods wondered. Odin went to the stranger. We marvel at your work, he said. What reward will you claim? Tell us, and we will provide it. The stranger stopped his labor and answered, O father of the gods, O Odin, I shall claim the sun and the moon, and Freya, who watches over flowers and grasses, for my wife. Odin was filled with great anger. The price was monstrous. He told the rest of the gods. They cried out that without the sun and moon the world would wither, and that without Freya Asgard would be shrouded in gloom. They preferred the wall unfinished to yielding so vast a ransom. But Loki, who was among them, half-god, son of a wind giant, spoke up. Let the stranger build the wall, he said. I will find a way to make him forfeit his claim. Tell him the last stone must be laid by the first day of summer, and if it is not, he shall receive nothing. So they told the stranger the condition. He was indeed a giant. The giant and his great horse labored faster. At night, while the giant slept, the horse worked on, hauling and laying stones. Day by day the wall neared completion. Still the gods took no comfort. If the work finished by the appointed day, the giant would take Sol and Mani and win Freya for his wife. Loki, however, kept his calm, promising he would stop the giant. 3 days stood between them and the summer deadline. Only the gateway remained unfinished. 1 stone ago, the giant, before sleep, ordered his horse to haul the great block of stone so they might place it above the gateway in the morning and finish 2 days early. On a beautiful moonlit night, Svaelfari, the giant's great horse, hauled the largest stone he had ever hauled when a little mare came galloping toward him. The great horse had never seen so pretty a mare and watched her in surprise. Svaelfari, slave, the little mare said as she frisked past. Svaelfari set down his stone and called after her. She returned. Why do you call me slave? He asked. Because you must work night and day for your master, the mare replied. He keeps you always at the task. You dare not leave that stone and come play. Who says I dare not? Svaelfari asked. I know you dare not, the little mare said, and she cantered off across the moonlit meadow. The truth was that Svaelfari was weary of endless labor. Seeing the mare, he grew suddenly discontent. He left his stone and followed her. He could not catch her. She ran lightly, looking back now and then. Down the mountainside she led him, and Svaelfari, rejoicing in freedom, followed. At dawn they neared a cave. The mare slipped into it, and they went through. The mare told stories of dwarfs and elves. They came to a grove and stayed, playing until the great horse forgot the passing of time. When morning came, the giant went to lift the stone for the gateway and found it gone. He called for Svaelfari, but the horse did not answer. He searched the mountainside and the giant realms and all the earth, but he found no trace. The gods watched the first day of summer dawn with the gateway still unfinished. They agreed that if the wall remained incomplete by evening, the giant would receive neither Sol, nor Mani, nor Freya. The hours passed. The giant did not lift the stone. In the evening he appeared before them. Your work is incomplete, Odin said. You forced us into a hard bargain. Now we need not keep it. You shall not have Sol and Mani, nor the maiden Freya. The wall I have built is so strong I would tear it down, the giant cried, and he strove to cast down a palace. The gods laid hands on him and thrust him beyond the wall. Go, and trouble Asgard no more, Odin commanded. Loki returned to Asgard and told how he had transformed himself into the little mare and lured Svaelfari away. The gods sat in their golden halls behind the great wall and rejoiced that their city was secure and no enemy could overthrow it. Yet Odin sitting upon his throne, felt sorrow. The wall had been won by a trick, oaths broken and an injustice done, and this weighed upon him. Chapter 3. Iduna and Her Apples. How Loki put the gods in danger. In Asgard there was a garden, and in that garden grew a tree bearing shining apples. You know, dear listener, that every day makes us older. Time bends us, makes us gray-headed and weak-eyed. But the shining apples of Asgard had a different power. Whoever ate them each day grew not a day older. The apples kept old age away. Iduna, the goddess, tended that tree. None could care for it, but she. Only Iduna could pluck the shining apples. Each morning she gathered them in her basket, and every day the gods and goddesses came to her garden to eat them and remain ever young. Iduna never left her garden. She stayed there or in her golden house beside it, and all day she listened to Bragi, her husband, spin a never-ending tale. But a time came when Iduna and her apples were lost to Asgard, and then the gods and goddesses felt old age creeping near. How that happened must now be told. Odin often traveled in the lands of men to watch over their doings. Once he took Loki with him. Loki, who could do both good and ill. They journeyed long, and at last came near Jotunheim, the giant's realm. The country there was bleak and empty. Nothing grew, no trees, no berries, no birds, no animals. Hunger came upon them. Loki, running this way and that, at last found a herd of wild cattle. He crept upon them, caught a young bull, and killed it. He cut the meat in strips, lit a fire, and set the flesh to roast. While the meat cooked, Odin sat a little way off, thinking of what he had seen among men. Loki kept adding logs to the fire. At last he called Odin to eat, but when Odin took the meat to cut it, he found that it was still raw. He smiled at Loki, who had mistaken doneness, and Loki, troubled by his mistake, put the meat back and added more wood. Again he took it off the spits and called Odin. Odin, when he took the meat that Loki brought him, found it as raw as if it had never been put upon the fire. "Is this a trick of yours, Loki?" he asked. Loki was so angry at the meats being uncooked that Odin saw he was playing no tricks. Hungry, he raged at the meat and he raged at the fire. Again he put the meat on the spits and heaped more logs on the flames. Every hour he lifted the meat, certain it must now be done. Every time it was as raw as at first. Odin knew the giant's enchantment must be at work. Strong but still hungry, he went his way. Loki, however, would not leave the meat on the fire. He vowed he would have it cooked and would not go away hungry. At dawn he lifted the meat once more. A whir of wings sounded above his head. Looking up he saw a mighty eagle, the largest that had ever appeared in the sky. The bird circled and came over Loki. "Can't you cook thy food?" the eagle screamed. "I cannot cook it," Loki answered. "I will cook it for thee, if thou wilt give me a share," the eagle shouted. "Come then, and cook it," Loki said. The eagle hovered over the fire and, flapping those great wings, made the flames blaze with a heat Loki had never felt. In a minute the meat was well cooked. My share, give me my share," the eagle screamed. He swooped, seized a large piece, and devoured it. Piece after piece he took until it looked as if Loki would be left with nothing. As the eagle seized the last piece, Loki grew angry. Taking up the spit, he struck at the bird. There was a clang as if he had struck metal, though it did not come free. It stuck fast to the eagle's breast. Loki would not let go. Suddenly the eagle rose, and Loki, clinging to the spit fixed to the bird's breast, was drawn up with him. Before he knew what had happened, Loki found himself miles in the air, borne by the eagle toward Jotunheim, the realm of the giants. The bird screamed, "Loki, friend Loki, I have thee at last. It was thou who didst cheat my brother of his reward for building the wall round Asgard. But Loki, I have thee at last. Know now that Thiassi the giant has captured thee. O Loki, most cunning of the dwellers in Asgard." They passed over the river that divides Jotunheim from Midgard, the world of men. Beneath lay a terrible land of ice and rock. Great mountains, lighted not by sun or moon, but by columns of fire spurting through cracks. Over a great iceberg the eagle hovered. He shook the spit from his breast, and Loki fell upon the ice. The eagle screamed, "Thou art in my power at last," almost cunning of the dwellers in Asgard, and flew into a cleft in the mountain. Miserable indeed was Loki upon that iceberg. The cold was deadly. He could not die there. He was one of the dwellers in Asgard, and yet he felt bound to the ice with chains of cold. After a day, his captor came to him, no longer an eagle, but Thiassi the giant in his own form. "Wouldst thou leave thy iceberg, Loki, and return to thy pleasant place in Asgard? Thou dost delight in Asgard, though by half only thou belongest to the gods. Thy father, Loki, was the wind giant. Oh, that I might leave this iceberg," Loki said, tears freezing on his face. "Thou mayst leave it when thou showest thyself ready to pay thy ransom to me," Thiassi answered. "Thou must fetch the shining apples that Iduna keeps in her basket." "I cannot get Iduna's apples for thee, Thiassi," Loki said. "Then stay upon the iceberg," said Thiassi, and left him to the winds that buffeted him like hammer blows. When he next came and spoke of ransom, Loki said, "There is no way of getting Iduna's shining apples." "There must be some way, O cunning Loki," the giant insisted. "Iduna, though she guards the apples well, is simple-minded," Loki said. "Maybe I can make her go outside Asgard's wall. If she goes, you will take her basket with her. She never lets the apples leave her hand except to give them to the gods. Make it so that she will go beyond Asgard's wall," the giant demanded. "If she goes outside, I shall get the apples. Swear by Yggdrasil, the world tree, that thou wilt lure Iduna beyond the wall. Swear it, Loki, and I shall let thee go." "I swear it by Yggdrasil that I will lure Iduna beyond Asgard's wall, if thou wilt take me off this iceberg," Loki swore. Thiassi changed himself into a mighty eagle, took Loki in his talons, crossed the stream between Jotunheim and Midgard, and left Loki on human ground. Loki then went on to Asgard. Odin had already returned and told the dwellers in Asgard of Loki's attempt to cook the enchanted meat. They laughed at Loki's hunger and at his cunning. When he came into Asgard looking famished, they mocked him further, but they brought him into the feast hall and gave him the best food and wine from Odin's cup. After the feast, as usual, the gods and goddesses went to Iduna's garden. There sat Iduna in her golden house, fair and simple, one who, had she been seen among men, would have reminded all who saw her of their own innocence. Her eyes were as blue as the sky, and she smiled as if thinking of lovely things. Beside her lay the basket of shining apples. To each god and goddess she gave a shining apple. Each ate and rejoiced, knowing youth would be theirs day by day. Odin spoke the runes in her praise, and the dwellers in Asgard left the garden for their shining houses, all except Loki. He sat watching Iduna. At length she spoke. "Why do you stay, wise Loki? Look well on thine apples," Loki said. "I wonder if the apples I saw yesterday are as shining as those in thy basket." "There are no apples in the world so shining as mine," Iduna replied. "The apples I saw were more shining, and they smelled sweeter," Loki insisted. Troubled, Iduna's eyes filled with tears to think there might be apples more shining than hers. "O Loki," she said, "it cannot be. None are so shining, none so sweet." "Go and see," Loki said. "Just outside Asgard grows the tree with the apples I saw. Thou, Iduna, dost never leave thy garden, and so thou knowest not what grows in the world. Go outside the wall and see." "I will go, Loki," the fair and simple Iduna answered. She went just beyond Asgard's wall to the place Loki had named. As she looked about, she heard a whir of wings. A mighty eagle swooped down, the largest eagle that had ever appeared in the sky. Iduna drew back toward Asgard's gate, but the eagle seized her, lifted her up, and carried her away, over Midgard, toward the rocks and snows of Jotunheim. Across the river that flows between Midgard and Jotunheim, the eagle bore her, and flew into a mountain cleft. There, in a cavern lit by columns of fire, the eagle loosened his grip, his wings and feathers fell, and Iduna saw her captor as a terrible giant. "Oh, why do you carry me off from Asgard?" she cried. "That I might eat your shining apples, Iduna," Thiassi said. "That will never be. "I will not give them to you," she answered. "Give them to me, and I will carry you back to Asgard," he tempted. "No, I cannot. I am trusted to give the apples only to the gods. Then I shall take them from you." Thiassi took the basket and opened it. When he touched the apples, they shriveled in his hands. He set the basket down. He knew the apples would be of no use unless Iduna herself gave them. "You must stay here until you give me the apples," he said. Poor Iduna was frightened of the cave, of the fire that burst from the earth, of the terrible giant. And above all, she feared what would befall Asgard if she were not there to give the gods their apples. Thiassi returned daily to trouble her. She would not yield. Each night, she dreamed the dwellers in Asgard coming to her garden and finding no hands to pluck the apples. Day by day, she saw in her dreams the gods growing changed. They no longer walked lightly, shoulders bent, their eyes lost dew-like brightness. She saw Frigga gray and old, Sif's golden hair fade, Odin's wisdom cloud, Thor's strength fail. The gods were saddened. Their shining city seemed to lose its light. It was Iduna. The gods searched Midgard in vain. Odin, searching with his wisdom, summoned Hugin and Munin, his two ravens who flew through the earth and the realm of the giants, and knew things past and things to come. They came, one on his right shoulder, one on his left, and told him the deep secret of Thiassi and his desire for the shining apples, and of Loki's deception. What Odin learned was told in the council. Then Thor the Strong seized Loki. "What wouldst thou with me, O Thor?" Loki cried, "I would hurl thee into a chasm and crush thee with my thunder," Thor answered. "It was thou who caused Iduna's going from Asgard. O Thor, do not crush me. Let me remain. I will strive to win Iduna back. The judgment of the gods is that thou, cunning one, go to Jotunheim and by craft win Iduna back. Go, or I will hurl thee into a chasm and crush thee with my thunder." "I will go," Loki said. From Frigga, Loki borrowed her dress of falcon feathers. Clad as a falcon, he flew to Jotunheim. He searched until he found Thiassi's daughter, Skadi. He flew before her. She caught him and kept him as a pet. One day, Skadi carried the falcon, Loki, to the cave where Iduna was held. When Loki saw Iduna, part of his task was done. He stayed not with the giant maid, but flew into the high rocks. Skadi wept for her lost pet, but ceased to search. Loki went to where Iduna sat and spoke to her. She wept with joy to learn one of the dwellers in Asgard was near. Loki told her what to do. By a spell, he could change her into a sparrow. Before she changed, she took the shining apples and flung them into places where the giant could not find them. Skadi returned to the cave to find the falcon gone. She cried out to her father. Thiassi knew the falcon to be Loki and the sparrow to be Iduna. He changed himself into a mighty eagle and gave chase. The sparrow and falcon flew with all speed. The eagle, stronger, gained on them. Standing upon Asgard's wall, the dwellers saw the falcon and sparrow and the great eagle pursuing. Loki and Iduna with Thiassi in pursuit. As they watched the eagle winging nearer and nearer, the dwellers in Asgard feared that the falcon and the sparrow would be seized, and that Iduna would be taken again by Thiassi. They lighted great fires upon the wall, knowing that Loki would find a way through the flames, bringing Iduna with him, but that Thiassi would not. The falcon and the sparrow flew toward the fires. Loki went between the flames and brought Iduna with him. Thiassi, coming up to the fires and finding no way through, beat his wings against the flames. He fell down from the wall, and the death that followed was laid to Loki. Thus Iduna was brought back to Asgard. Once again she sat in the golden house that opened to her garden. Once again she plucked the shining apple from the tree she tended, and once again she gave them to the dwellers in Asgard. The dwellers walked lightly again. Brightness came into their eyes and their cheeks. Age no more approached them. Youth returned. Light and joy were again in Asgard. Chapter 4. Sif's Golden Hair. How Loki wrought mischief in Asgard. All who dwelt in Asgard, the Aesir and the Aesir, the gods and the goddesses, and the Vanir, their friends, were wroth with Loki. No wonder. He had let the giant Thiassi carry off Iduna and her golden apples. Yet their show of wrath only made Loki ready for further mischief. One day he saw his chance. Sif, Thor's wife, lay asleep outside her house. Her beautiful golden hair flowed all around her. Loki knew how much Thor loved that shining hair, and how dearly Sif prized it because of Thor's love. Here, then, was the opportunity for a great wrong. Smiling, Loki took out his shears and cut off Sif's shining hair, every strand and tress. She did not wake while her treasure was taken. When he left, Sif's head lay cropped and bare. Thor was away from Asgard. Returning to the city, he called for Sif. No glad answer came. He searched the palaces of the gods and goddesses, but she was in none of them. As he came back to his house, he heard his name whispered. He stopped, and a figure stole out from behind a stone. A veil covered her head. Thor scarcely knew her. As he approached, she sobbed. "O Thor, my husband," she said, "do not look upon me. I am ashamed that you should see me. I shall go from Asgard and from the company of the gods, and I shall go down to Svartheim and live among the dwarfs. I cannot bear that any of the dwellers in Asgard should look upon me now." "O Sif," cried Thor, "what has happened to change you?" "I have lost the hair of my head," she answered. "I have lost the beautiful golden hair that you, Thor, love. You will not love me anymore, and so I must go away to Svartheim in the company of the dwarfs. They're as ugly as I am now." Then she lifted the veil. Thor saw that all her beautiful hair was gone. She stood before him shamed and sorrowful. He was filled with mighty rage. "Who did this to you, Sif?" he thundered. "I am Thor, the strongest of all the dwellers in Asgard, and I shall see that all the powers the gods possess are used to restore your beauty. Come with me, Sif." Taking his wife's hand, Thor went to the council house where the gods and goddesses met. Sif kept her head veiled, unwilling that the gods see her shorn brow. But Thor's anger spoke for itself. All saw how great the wrong was. Thor told of the cutting of her hair. A whisper ran through the council house. It was Loki who did this. No one else in Asgard would have done such a shameful deed. One said to another. "Loki it was," said Thor. "He has hidden himself, but I shall find him and slay him." "Nay, not so, Thor," said Odin, the All-Father. "No dweller in Asgard may slay another. I shall summon Loki to appear before us. It is for you, Loki, to make amends, and remember that Loki is cunning and able to do many things. Restore to Sif the beauty of her hair." Odin's call went through the city of gods. Loki heard it. He could not remain hidden. He entered the house where the gods held council. When he saw Thor's rage and Odin's sternness, he knew he must repair the wrong he had done. "I shall do as you command, Odin All-Father," he said. "Before we follow Loki's attempt to restore Sif's hair, we must tell of other beings in the world then. First, the Vanir. When the Aesir built Asgard, they found other folk upon the mountain, beautiful and friendly. These were the Vanir. Though amiable, the Vanir had no thought of making the world more beautiful or happier in the way the Aesir did. Still, they lived in peace with the Aesir and helped in certain ways. Freya, whom the giants sought as reward for the building of Asgard's wall, belonged to the Vanir. The Vanir included Frey, Freya's brother, and Njord, their father. Upon the earth below there were the dainty elves, who tended trees, flowers, and grasses. The Vanir were permitted to rule over the elves. Below the earth, in caves and hollows, dwelt the dwarfs, or gnomes, little twisted folk, both ugly and crafty, yet the best craftsmen in the world. In days when neither the Aesir nor the Vanir were friendly to him, Loki often went down to Svartheim, the dwarfs' realm. Now, tasked with restoring Sif's beauty, he sought their help. Down through winding passages, he went until he found his dwarf friends at their forges. They were beating metals into shapes. One made a spear so well balanced that it would hit whatever mark it was thrown at, no matter the aim. Another made a boat that could sail any sea and yet fold up to slip into a pocket. The spear was called Gungnir, the boat Skidbladnir. Loki praised the dwarfs' craft and promised them things only the dwellers in Asgard could give, promises the little folk desired. He urged them to take a bar of the finest gold and hammer it into threads as fine as Sif's hair. Flattered, they threw the bar into the fire, drew it out, and beat it upon their anvil until it yielded to their skill. Again and again they worked, until the threads were as fine as the hairs on Sif's head, bright as sunlight, so delicate they could lie in Loki's palm and hardly be felt by a bird. Loki praised them yet more, and, before leaving, took the spear and the boat from them, Gungnir and Skidbladnir. Back in Asgard, he walked into the council house where the dwellers were gathered. Meeting Odin's stern look and Thor's wrath, he kept his smiling humor. "Off with thy veil, O Sif," he said. When Sif removed it, he laid upon her shorn head the fine mass of gold threads. The shining web fell over her shoulders, soft and bright as her own hair. The Aesir and the Vanir laughed and clapped in gladness. The gold held to Sif's head as though it had roots and were indeed growing there. Chapter 5. How Brock brought judgment on Loki. Having won back favor by restoring Sif's beauty, Loki produced the other wonders he had gained from the dwarfs, the spear Gungnir and the boat Skidbladnir. The Aesir and Vanir marveled. Loki gave Gungnir to Odin and Skidbladnir to Frey. To show off, Loki boasted, "None but the dwarfs who work for me could make such things. Other dwarfs are unhandy and misshapen. The dwarfs who serve me are the only ones who can make such wonders." Unknown to Loki, one of those other dwarfs stood in the shadow of Odin's seat, listening. It was Brock, the most spiteful of the dwarfs. He stepped forward and roared, "Ha! Loki, you boaster, you lie. Sindri, my brother, who scorns to serve you, is the best smith in Svartheim." The Aesir and Vanir laughed to see Loki taken down. Loki answered, "Be silent, dwarf. Your brother will learn smith's work from the dwarfs who are my friends. My brother learns from your friends." Brock shouted, "I'll wager my head against yours that Sindri's work will put yours to shame." "I accept," said Loki. "My head for yours. I shall be glad to see that ugly head of yours off your misshapen shoulders." "The Aesir will judge," Brock cried, and the gods agreed. Brock hurried to Svartheim and found Sindri at his forge, amid bellows, anvils, and masses of metal, gold, silver, copper, and iron. "You were right," said Sindri. "We will not lose, but we must work together. You will tend the bellows so that the fire neither blazes up nor dies down for a single instant. Keep it steady." Into the fire Sindri threw. No ordinary metal, but a pig's skin. Brock took his place at the bellows and kept the flame steady. The pigskin swelled and took form. Sindri spoke words of magic over the shape, and when he called the work done, the thing was wondrous, a golden boar that could fly through the air and shed light from its bristles. Brock forgot his pain and shouted with joy. "This is the greatest wonder," he cried. "The dwellers in Asgard must judge against Loki. I shall have his head." "But we must make yet more," Sindri said. "Work on." He flung into the fire a piece of gold so bright it lit the dark cavern. Sindri left Brock to the bellows. Once more a gadfly buzzed in. Loki in disguise, lighting upon Brock and stinging him until the pain seared through his hands and neck. Still Brock held to the bellows. Still the fire neither flamed nor died. When Sindri returned and looked in the fire, Brock could hardly speak for the pain he endured. Again Sindri spoke his words of magic over the glowing metal. He drew it from the fire and hammered it upon the main anvil. In time he showed Brock a thing that shone like the circle of the sun. "A splendid arm ring, my brother," Sindri said. "An arm ring for a god's right arm. This ring has hidden wonders. Every 9th night, 8 rings like itself will drop from it. This is Draupnir, the ring of increase. To Odin, the father of the gods, the ring shall be given," Brock cried. "Odin will have to declare that nothing so wonderful or so profitable was ever brought into Asgard. O Loki, cunning Loki, I shall have thy head in spite of thy tricks." "Be not hasty, brother," Sindri answered. "What we have done so far is good, but still better must be made. Something that will compel the dwellers in Asgard to give judgment for us. Work as before, brother, and let the fire neither blaze up nor die down for a single instant." This time Sindri threw into the flames a bar of iron. He went away to fetch the hammer that would shape it. Brock kept the bellows, though his whole body trembled with dread of the gadfly. The gadfly darted into the forge and circled him. It lighted upon his forehead, just between the eyes. The first sting took the sight from him. It stung again, and he felt the blood trickle down. Darkness filled the cavern. Brock struggled to keep his hands steady on the bellows. He could not tell whether the fire flamed or fell. He shouted, and Sindri hurried back. Sindri spoke his words of magic over the thing in the fire and drew it forth. An instant more, he said, and the work would have been perfect. But because the fire died down for a moment, the work is not as it might have been. He set the piece upon the anvil and shaped it. When Brock's sight returned, he saw a great hammer, head formed of iron. The handle seemed too short to balance it. That shortness was because the fire had waned for an instant while it was forming. The hammer is Mjolnir, Sindri said, and it is the greatest of the things I can make. All in Asgard must rejoice to see this hammer. Thor alone will be able to wield it. Now I fear not the judgment of the dwellers in Asgard. The dwellers in Asgard must give judgment for us, Brock shouted. They will, and Loki's head shall be mine. No more wonderful or more profitable gifts have ever been brought into Asgard, Sindri declared. Thy head is saved, and thou shalt take the head of Loki the insolent. Bring it here, and we will cast it into the forge. When the Aesir and the Vanir were seated in the council house, a train of dwarfs entered. Brock led them, followed by bearers carrying great things. They stood about Odin's throne and listened to the words of the All-Father. We know why you have come from Svartheim, Odin said. Show what you have brought. If these are more wonderful and useful than Loki's spear Gungnir and the boat Skidbladnir, we will give judgment to you. Brock bade his attendants show the first wonder. They brought forth Golden Bristle, the boar. Around the council house the boar flew, leaving a path of light. The dwellers called it a marvel, though none said it was better than Gungnir or Skidbladnir. To Frey, chief of the Vanir, Brock presented the golden boar. Next came the arm ring, bright as the sun. All admired it. When they learned that every 9th night it shed 8 rings like itself, the dwellers spoke aloud that Draupnir, the ring of increase, was indeed a wonder. Brock looked triumphantly at Loki. To Odin, Brock gave the noble arm ring. Then Brock bade the dwarfs lay before Thor the hammer Mjolnir. Thor lifted it and swung it about his head, and a great cry went up. The eyes of the dwellers brightened. This is a wonder, they cried. With this hammer, none can withstand Thor. No greater thing has come into Asgard. From his throne, Odin spoke judgment. The hammer Mjolnir that Brock has brought is a wondrous and profitable thing. In Thor's hands, it can crush mountains and hurl the giant race from Asgard's ramparts. Sindri has forged a greater thing than Gungnir and Skidbladnir. There can be no other judgment. Brock showed his gnarled teeth at Loki. Now, Loki, yield thy head, he cried. Do not ask such a thing, Odin said. Put any other penalty on Loki for his mocking and torment. Make him yield what is in his power to give. Not so, Brock screamed. You dwellers would shield one another. But what of me? Loki would have taken my head had I lost. He has lost his head to me. Let him kneel now, till I cut it off. Loki stepped forward, smiling with closed lips. I kneel before thee, dwarf, he said. Take off my head, but be careful, do not touch my neck. I did not bargain that you should touch my neck. If you do, I shall call upon the dwellers in Asgard to punish you. Brock recoiled with a snarl. Is this the judgment of the gods? He snarled. The bargain you made was an evil one, Odin answered, and its evil consequences you must bear. Chapter 6. How Freya gained her necklace, and how her loved one was lost to her. Loki moved through Asgard silent and bowed, and the dwellers said, This will teach Loki to work no more mischief. They did not know that Loki's doings had sown seeds of future trouble, seeds that would bring sorrow to the fair Vanir, Freya, whom the giant had sought to carry off with the sun and moon as his reward for building Asgard's wall. Freya had seen the wonders Loki had brought, the golden threads that became Sif's hair, and Frey's boar that shed light as it flew. The gleam of these things dazzled her and made her daydream of treasures she might own. Often she thought what wonders the 3 giant women would give me if I would go to them on a mountaintop. Long before, when the wall around Asgard was not yet built and the gods had set up only their court with 12 seats and the halls of Odin and the goddesses, 3 giant women had come into Asgard. They came after the gods had set up a forge and begun to work with pure gold. With that gold they built Gladsheim, the hall of Odin, and made all their dishes and household ware. Then was the age of gold. The gods wasted no gold, and no shadow lay on Asgard. But after the 3 giant women came, the gods began to value and hoard gold. They played with it no more, and the innocence of those first days departed. At last the 3 were banished. The gods turned from hoarding and set to building their city, making themselves strong. Now Freya, the fair Vanir bride, looked back to the giant women and the marvels of gold that had flashed through their hands. She did not tell Odin. Her husband, Odin, more than any other, dwelt in memory of the days before gold was hoarded and would have forbade her going near the giant women's mountain. But why should Odin know I went, she told herself. No one will tell him. What harm if I go and win lovely things for myself? I shall not love Odin the less because I go my own way once. So one day she left her palace, leaving Odin playing with their child Hnossa. She tended flowers upon the earth for a time, then asked the elves where the giant women's mountain stood. The elves, afraid, would not tell even their queen. She descended into the dwarfs' caves. They showed her the way, after making her endure shame and misery. We will show you if you stay with us, one dwarf said. For how long? Freya asked. Until the cocks of Svartheim crow, the dwarfs replied, closing round her. We would know what the company of one of the Vanir is like. I will stay, Freya answered. A dwarf put his arms about her neck and kissed her with his ugly mouth. Freya struggled. They held her. You cannot go until the cocks of Svartheim crow, they said. One after another pressed near and kissed her. They made her sit on their skins. When she wept, they screamed and beat her. One bit her hand when she refused his mouth. So Freya remained until the cocks of Svartheim crew. At last they showed her the mountain where the 3, banished from Asgard, had their seat. The giant women sat overlooking Midgard. What would you have from us, wife of Odin? Asked one called Guldi. Alas, now that I have found you, I know I should ask for naught, Freya said. Speak. Vanna, said the second giant woman. The third held up a necklace of gold, curiously wrought. How bright it is! Freya cried. There is a shadow where you sit, yet this necklace makes it bright. How gladly I would wear it. It is the necklace Brisingamen, said Guldi. It is yours to wear, wife of Odin, said the one who held it. Freya took the shining necklace and clasped it about her throat. She could not bring herself to thank them. She saw evil in their eyes, but she bowed and departed the mountain. Down below, she looked upon Brisingamen and her sorrow lifted. It was the most beautiful handiwork she had seen. None among the Aesir or the Vanir possessed such a thing. It made her lovelier, and she thought Odin would forgive her when he saw how the necklace brightened her. She rose from among the flowers, left the elves, and hastened back into Asgard. All who greeted her looked long at the necklace. Longing came into the eyes of the goddesses. Freya scarcely stopped to speak. Quickly she returned to her palace to show Odin and win his pardon. She entered and called to him. There was no answer. Her child Hnossa played upon the floor. The child, seeing Brisingamen, turned away and cried. Freya searched the palace and all houses in Asgard for Odin. None knew where he had gone. At last Frigga, queen among the goddesses, came to her. You wait for Odin, your husband, Frigga said. He will not come. He went when, for the sake of a shining thing. You did what would make him unhappy. Odin has left Asgard, and no one knows where to seek him. I will seek him outside of Asgard, Freya said. She wept no more. She put the little child Hnossa into Frigga's arms, mounted her cart drawn by 2 cats, and journeyed down from Asgard to Midgard, the earth, to search for Odin, her husband. Year after year, and all over the earth, Freya went seeking and calling for the lost Odin. She traveled to the very bounds of the world, where she could look toward Jotunheim, the land of the giants, the realm of the one who would have carried her off with the sun and the moon as payment for building Asgard's wall. Yet from the end of Bifrost, the rainbow bridge that arched from Asgard to the earth, to the borders of Jotunheim, she found no trace of Odin. At last, she turned her chariot toward Bifrost. Heimdall, the watcher for the gods, guarded the rainbow bridge. To him Freya went with a half-hope fluttering in her heart. "O Heimdall," she cried, "O Heimdall, watcher for the gods, speak and tell me if you know where Odin is." Odin is in every place where the searcher has not come. Odin is in every place that the searcher has left. Those who seek him will never find Odin, said Heimdall, the watcher for the gods. Then Freya stood upon Bifrost and wept. Frigga, the queenly goddess, heard her lament and came out of Asgard to comfort her. "Ah, what comfort can you give me, Frigga?" cried Freya. "What comfort can you give me when Odin will never be found by one who searches for him?" "Behold how your daughter, the child Hnossa, has grown," said Frigga. Freya looked up and saw a beautiful maiden standing upon Bifrost. She was younger than any of the Vanir or the Aesir. Her face and form were so lovely that all hearts melted at the sight. Freya felt a small comfort in her loss. She followed Frigga across Bifrost and returned to the city of the gods. In her palace in Asgard, she dwelt again with Hnossa, her child. Still she wore Brisingmen, the necklace that had cost her Odin. Yet now she wore it not for pride, but as a sign of the wrong she had done. She wept, and her tears fell as golden drops upon the earth. Poets who know her story call her the beautiful lady in tears. Chapter 7. How Frey won Gerda, the giant maiden, and how he lost his magic sword. Frey, chief of the Vanir, longed to see his sister, who had been absent from Asgard for so long. This longing came during the time when Freya wandered the world in search of Odin. In Asgard there stood a place from which one might look all over the world. Hlidskjalf, Odin's lofty watchtower. The tower rose high into the blue. Frey climbed it and found Odin absent. Only the two wolves, Jerry and Freki, crouched beside the All-Father's seat. They barred his way. Frey spoke to them in the language of the gods, and they let him pass. As he climbed the inner steps to the top, Frey felt that he was doing a fateful thing. None of the high gods, not Thor, the defender of Asgard, nor Baldur, the best beloved, had ever sat upon Odin's seat. But if I could see my sister but once, I should be content, Frey told himself. No harm can come if I look. He seated himself upon Odin's high place and looked out. He saw Midgard, the world of men, its towns and fields. Beyond Midgard, he saw Jotunheim, the giant's realm, terrible with dark mountains and snow. He saw Freya in her wanderings, her face turned toward Asgard. He took some comfort, thinking himself satisfied. Even so, his gaze lingered on a dwelling, standing amid ice and snow. The door opened, and a giant maiden stood framed in the doorway. Her beauty shone like starlight amid the dark. She glanced from the doorway, turned, and went inside, shutting the door. Frey sat long on the seat of Odin. He descended the tower at last and passed the wolves, who now bared their teeth and would not let him by, though he spoke again in the gods' tongue. He wandered through Asgard, but found no one pleasing. Sleep fled him. His thoughts were fixed upon the maiden he had seen. At dawn he returned to Hlidskjalf, hoping for another glimpse, but the wolves still barred him. He went to his father, the wise Njord. "She whom you saw is Gerda, daughter of the giant Jimmer," Njord said. "Give up thinking of her. Your love would harm you." "Why should it harm me?" Frey asked. "Because you must give up what you prize most to win her," Njord answered. "What I prize most is my magic sword," said Frey. "You will have to give the sword," Njord said. "I will give it," Frey answered, loosening the sword from his belt. "Think, my son," Njord warned. "If thou givest thy sword, what weapon wilt thou have on the day of Ragnarok, when the giants shall rise against the gods?" Frey fell silent. He thought the day of Ragnarok far away. "I cannot live without Gerda," he said at last. There was in Asgard one named Skirnir, venturesome, reckless, careless of speech. To no one else could Frey speak of the trouble that had fallen upon him for sitting in Odin's seat. Skirnir laughed at the tale. "Thou, a Van, in love with a maid of Jotunheim. This is sport. Wilt thou make a marriage of it? Would that I might even speak to her or send a message." Frey said, "but I cannot leave my watch over the elves. If I should carry thy message to Gerda," Skirnir asked, "what reward shall I have? My boat Skibladner or my boar golden bristle?" answered Frey. "No," Skirnir said. "I would have something in my side, something to hold in my hand. Give me thy magic sword." Frey remembered Njord's warning that without the sword, he would be weaponless at Ragnarok. He hesitated while Skirnir laughed. Then Frey thought, "Ragnarok is far off. I cannot live without Gerda." He drew forth his magic sword and placed it in Skirnir's hand. "I give thee my sword, Skirnir," he said. "Show Gerda gold and jewels, and tell her I love her and claim her love." "I shall bring the maid to thee," Skirnir answered. "How wilt thou reach Jotunheim?" Frey asked. "With a good horse and a good sword one may go anywhere," Skirnir replied. "Tomorrow I will ride." Skirnir rode across Bifrost, laughing at Heimdall, the warder. His horse trod Midgard, swam the river that parts men's world from Jotunheim, and rode on. From the iron forest came monstrous wolves to devour him. Frey's magic sword gleamed. Its edge slew the beasts, and its light affrighted them. He came to a wall of fire, through which only his horse could pass. He rode it through and reached the dale of Immerse's dwelling. He found a great hound baying, but the sword's gleam kept them at bay. He struck the door with his horse's hoofs. Immerse sat feasting and did not hear. Gerda sat spinning with her maidens. "Who comes to Immerse's door?" she asked. "A warrior upon a mighty horse," said one maiden. "Even though he be an enemy who slew my brother, let us open and give him Immerse mead," said another. One maiden opened the door. Skirnir entered and found Gerda among the women. He displayed the gold and jewels Frey had sent. "These are for thee, fairest Gerda," he said, "if thou wilt give thy love to Frey." "Show thy trinkets to other maidens," Gerda replied. "Gold and jewels will not win my love." Skirnir then drew the magic sword and held it over her. "Give thy love to Frey, who gave me this sword, or meet death by its edge." Gerda laughed. "Make the daughters of men fear the sharpness of Frey's sword," she said, "but do not try to frighten a giant's daughter with it." Skirnir made the sword flash and hiss, and spoke a spell. "Gerda, I will curse thee. With this magic blade, I shall touch thee. Such is its power, that like a thistle, withered it shall leave thee. Like a thistle the wind strips from the roof." Hearing the words and the sword's strange hiss, Gerda threw herself down and cried for pity. Skirnir stood over her. The blade hissed and flashed. He chanted, "More ugly I'll leave thee, the maid ever was. Thou wilt be mocked by men and giants. A dwarf only shall wed thee. Now on this instant, with this blade, I shall touch thee, and leave thee bespelled." Gerda rose on her knees and entreated Skirnir to spare her. "Only if thou wilt give thy love to Frey," he said. "I will give my love to him," Gerda answered. "Now sheathe thy sword, drink a cup of mead, and depart." "I will not drink thy mead, nor depart until thou swear to meet Frey," Skirnir replied. "I will meet him," Gerda said. "When?" asked Skirnir. "In the woods of Bari, 9 nights hence. Let him come and meet me there." Skirnir sheathed the sword, drank the mead she gave, and rode away, laughing that he had won Gerda for Frey, and thus made the magic sword his forever. Skirnir returned across Bifrost, and found Frey waiting by Heimdall. "What news?" cried Frey. "In 9 nights thou shalt meet Gerda in Bari Wood," Skirnir said. Long were the 9 days to Frey. At last the evening of the 9th came, and Frey went to Bari Wood. There he met Gerda as promised. She was as fair as when first he had seen her at Immerse's door. When she saw Frey, the giant's daughter rejoiced that Skirnir had compelled her promise. They exchanged rings of gold. It was settled that Gerda should come as Frey's bride to Asgard. When Gerda came, another giant maid came also. This is how it befell. All the dwellers in Asgard were gathered at the great gate to welcome Frey's bride. A giant maiden came forward, not Gerda, but in full armor. "I am Skadi," she said, "daughter of Thiassi. My father met his death at the hands of the dwellers in Asgard. I demand recompense." "What recompense would you have, maiden?" Odin asked, smiling at her boldness. "A husband from among you, even as Gerda, and I shall have leave to choose him." They all laughed. Odin said, "We shall let thee choose, but thou must choose by his feet." I will choose as you will, Skadi answered, and fixed her eyes on Baldur, the most beautiful of the dwellers. They bound her eyes. The gods and Vanir sat in a half circle. As she passed, she stooped and touched the feet of each. At last she found feet so fair she thought they belonged to Baldur. This is he I choose, she said. The Aesir and Vanir laughed and removed the bandage. She had chosen not Baldur, but Njord, Frey's father. Yet as Skadi looked upon Njord, she grew content with her choice. He was strong and noble. Njord and Skadi first lived in Njord's palace by the sea. But the sea's cry woke Skadi too early. She moved her husband to the mountaintop where she felt at home. He could not long be without the sea's sound, and they went back and forth between mountain and sea. Gerda remained in Asgard with Frey, and the Aesir and Vanir came to love her dearly. Chapter 8. Heimdall and little Hnossa. How all things came to be. Hnossa, the child of Freya and the lost Odin, was the youngest of all the dwellers in Asgard, because it was prophesied that the child might bring her father and mother together. Little Hnossa was often taken outside the city to stand by Bifrost, the rainbow bridge, so that if Odin's steps turned toward Asgard, she might greet him. In all the palaces of the city of the gods, little Hnossa was made welcome. She visited Fensaler, the halls of mists, where Frigga, the wife of Odin Allfather, sat spinning with golden threads. Breidablik, where Baldur, the well-beloved, lived with his fair wife, the young Nanna, and Bilskirnir, the winding house, where Thor and Sif dwelt. She even went to Odin's own palace, Valisjaff, roofed over with silver shields. The greatest palace of all was Gladsheim, built beside the golden-leaved wood glacier. Here the gods held their banquets. Often Hnossa appeared within and saw Odin Allfather at the table, a blue mantle over him, a shining helmet shaped like an eagle upon his head. Odin ate little. He drank the wine of the gods and took the food from the table to give to Jerry and Freki, the two wolves crouched by his seat. She loved to sit outside the great gate with Heimdall, the warder of the Rainbow Bridge. When there were no travelers, she would sit beside him and listen to the wonders he told. Heimdall held a horn called Gjallarhorn. He sounded it to let the dwellers in Asgard know when someone crossed the Rainbow Bridge. He told Hnossa how he had trained himself to hear the grasses grow, how he could see all around for 100 miles, how he could see by night as well as by day, and that he never slept. He told her he had 9 mothers, and that he fed on the strength of the earth and the cold sea. Day after day, as she sat beside him, Heimdall told Hnossa how all things began. He had lived from the beginning, he said, and knew all things. Before Asgard was built, he said, and before Odin lived, earth and sea and sky were all mixed together. What was then was the chasm of chasms. In the north was Nibelheim, the place of deadly cold. In the south was Muspelheim, the land of fire. In Nibelheim was a cauldron called Hvagelmur that poured out 12 rivers into the chasm of chasms. Ginnungagap, the chasm of chasms, filled with ice as the rivers froze upon entering it. From Muspelheim came clouds of fire that turned the ice into thick mists. The mists fell again as drops of dew, and from those drops was formed Ymir, the ancient giant. Ymir traveled along the 12 rivers until he came to another living thing standing in the mists, a giant cow named Audhumla. Ymir lay beside her and drank her milk, and on that milk he lived. Other beings were formed from the dew that fell. They were the daughters of the frost. Ymir married one of them, and their children were the giants. One day Ymir saw Audhumla breathe on a cliff of ice and lick the place she breathed upon. As her tongue moved, a figure was forming, more shapely, more beautiful than a giant. A head appeared in the cliff, and golden hair fell over the ice. Ymir hated the being for his beauty. Audhumla kept licking the ice. At last a man stepped forth. He was not a giant. Ymir would have slain him, but he feared that if he did, Audhumla would cease to feed him. Bur was the name of the man formed from the ice, Bur, the first of the heroes. He too lived on Audhumla's milk. He married a daughter of the ancient giant and had a son. Ymir and his sons hated Bur, and at last they killed him. War came between Ymir and Ymir's sons, and the son and sons of Odin was the son of Bur's son. Odin gathered his brothers, and they destroyed Ymir and his brood, except one. Ymir was so vast that when slain his blood flooded the world, drowning his sons save Bergelmir, who floated away in a boat with his wife to the place now called Jotunheim, the realm of the giants. Odin and his brothers took Ymir's body, the vastest body that ever was, and filled the chasm of chasms with it. They dug out his bones and piled them as mountains. They made the teeth into rocks. They made his hair into forests. They formed his eyebrows into the place where men now dwell, Midgard. From Ymir's hollow skull they made the sky. They did yet more. They took sparks and clouds of flame from Muspelheim and made them into the sun, the moon, and all the stars. Odin found a dusky giantess named Night, whose son was Day, and gave them horses to drive across the sky. Night drove Hrimfax, frosty mane, and Day drove Skinfax, shining mane. From Hrimfax bit fall the drops that make the dew upon the earth. Then Odin and his brothers made a race of men and women and gave them Midgard. Ugly dwarfs had grown up beneath the earth. Odin made them dwell in the hollow places below. The elves he let stay on the earth, setting them to tend streams, grasses, and flowers. And after a war with the Vanir, Odin made peace and took Njord as a hostage. Bergelmir, the giant who escaped Ymir's flood, had children in Jotunheim. They hated Odin and strove against him. When Odin lit the world with sun and moon, they were wroth and set the fiercest wolves of Jotunheim to pursue them. Even now the sun and moon, Sol and Mani, are followed by the wolves of Jotunheim. Such were the wonders Heimdall with the golden teeth told Hnossa, the youngest of the dwellers in Asgard. Often the child sat with him by the rainbow bridge and watched the gods pass to and from Midgard. Thor, crowned with stars, bearing the great hammer Mjolnir and the iron gloves he used when he grasped it. Thor in a chariot drawn by two goats, wearing the belt that doubled his strength. Frigga in a dress of falcon feathers, flying swiftly. And Odin All-Father, riding Sleipnir, his eight-legged steed, clad in golden armor, wearing his eagle-shaped golden helmet and holding his spear Gungnir. Heimdall kept his horn in a branch of a great tree called Yggdrasil, a wonder to gods and men. No one knows of a time when Yggdrasil was not growing, he told Hnossa, and all are afraid to speak of the time when it will be destroyed. Yggdrasil has three roots. One goes deep under Midgard, another under Jotunheim, and the third grows above Asgard. Over Odin's hall, a branch of Yggdrasil grows, called the Peace Bough. You see Yggdrasil, little Hnossa, but you do not know all its wonders. Far up in its branches, 4 stags graze. They shake water from their horns that falls as rain upon the earth. On the topmost branch, there is an eagle that knows all things. Upon the eagle's beak, a hawk sits, a hawk that sees what even the eagle cannot. The root of Yggdrasil that reaches Midgard goes down to the place of the dead. There an evil dragon named Nidhogg gnaws constantly at the root, striving to destroy the tree of trees. Ratatosk, the squirrel of Mischief, runs up and down Yggdrasil, carrying tails between the eagle above and the dragon below. He tells the dragon that the eagle plans to tear him to pieces, and tells the eagle that the dragon plans to devour him. His stories make Nidhogg more fierce. There are 2 wells by Yggdrasil's roots, one above and one below. One beside the root in Jotunheim is a well of knowledge guarded by old Mimir the Wise. Whoever drinks from it knows all that will come to be. The other is by the root above Asgard. No one may drink from it. The 3 holy Norns guard it, and they take the white water from it to water Yggdrasil, so the tree of life may remain green and strong. This well is Urda's well. Hnossa heard that by Urda's well 2 beautiful white swans made music often heard in Asgard. She was too young to hear the swans' music yet. Chapter 9, The All-Father's Forebodings, How He Leaves Asgard. Odin had 2 ravens, Hugin and Munin. Each day, they flew through all the worlds and returned to light on his shoulders and tell him what they had seen. Once a day passed without the ravens returning. Standing on a watchtower, Hlitsjav, Odin said to himself, I fear me for Hugin, lest he come not back, but I watch more for Munin. A day passed, and the ravens returned, each settling on a shoulder. Odin then went into the council hall beside Glacier, the wood with leaves of gold, to hear what Hugin and Munin had to tell. They brought only shadows and forebodings. Odin told none of it to the dwellers in Asgard. Yet Frigga, his queen, saw the shadows in his eyes. When he spoke to her, she bade him, do not strive against what must take place. Let us go to the holy Norns by Erda's well, and see if these forebodings will remain when you look into their eyes. So Odin and the gods left Asgard and came to Erda's well, under the great root of Yggdrasil, where the three Norns sat, with the two fair swans below. Odin went with Tyr, the great swordsman, Baldur, the best beloved, and Thor with his hammer. A rainbow bridge led from Asgard to Midgard. Another rainbow, more tremulous and more beautiful, reached from Asgard to the root of Yggdrasil above Erda's well. Men seldom saw this bridge. Where the two rainbows met stood Heimdall, Heimdall with the golden teeth, watcher for the gods and keeper of the way to Erda's well. Open the gate, Heimdall, said Odin. Open the gate, for today the gods would visit the holy Norns. Without a word, Heimdall opened the gate to the more tremulous rainbow. Odin, Tyr, and Baldur stepped out on the bridge. Thor followed, but before his foot was placed on it, Heimdall laid his hand upon him. The others may go, but you may not go that way, Thor, said Heimdall. What? Would you, Heimdall, hold me back? Said Thor. Yes, for I am keeper of the way to the Norns, Heimdall replied. You with the mighty hammer are too weighty for this way. The bridge I guard would break under you. Thor with the hammer. Nevertheless, I will go visit the Norns with Odin and my comrades, said Thor. But not this way, Thor, said Heimdall. I will not let the bridge be broken under you and your hammer. Leave your hammer here with me if you would go this way. No, said Thor. I will not leave in another's charge the hammer that defends Asgard. I may not be turned back from going with Odin and my comrades. There's another way to Erda's well, said Heimdall. Behold these two great cloud rivers, Kormt and Ermt. Canst thou wade through them? They are cold and suffocating, but they will bring thee to Erda's well, where the three holy Norns sit. Thor looked at the rolling cloud rivers. It was a hard way, cold and choking, but by it he could keep his hammer. He stepped into the cloud river that flowed by the rainbow bridge, and, hammer upon his shoulder, struggled through to the other river. Odin, Tyr, and Baldur were beside Erda's well when Thor came out of the cloud river, wet and choking, but with his hammer still upon his shoulder. Tyr stood upright and handsome, leaning on a sword inscribed with runes. Baldur smiled, head bent as he listened to the murmur of the two fair swans. Odin stood clad in a blue cloak fringed with golden stars, without his eagle helmet and with no spear in his hand. The three Norns, Erda, Verdandi, and Skulda, sat by the well in the hollow of Yggdrasil's root. Erda was ancient with white hair. Verdandi was now and beautiful. Skulda sat far back, her hair falling over face and eyes. Erda, Verdandi, and Skulda knew the whole of the past, the whole of the present, and the whole of the future. Odin looked long into their eyes. The others listened to the swans and the falling leaves of Yggdrasil into Erda's well. Looking into the Norns' eyes, Odin saw the shadows and forebodings that Hugin and Munin had told him. Others crossed the rainbow then, Frigga, Sif, and Nanna, the wives of Odin, Thor, and Baldur. Frigga looked upon the Norns, then cast a loving, sorrowful glance at Baldur and drew back to place her hand upon Nanna's head. Odin turned from the Norns and looked at Frigga. I would leave Asgard for a while. Wife of Odin, he said. Yeah, said Frigga. Much has to be done in Midgard, the world of men. I would change what knowledge I have into wisdom, said Odin, so that the things that are to happen will be changed into the best that may be. You would go to Mimir's well, said Frigga. I would go to Mimir's well, said Odin. My husband go, said Frigga. They went back over that rainbow, more beautiful and more tremulous than the one men see from earth. Over it went the Aesir and the Aesir, Odin and Frigga, Baldur and Nanna, Tyr with his sword, and Sif beside Tyr. Thor, however, went struggling through the cloud rivers Cormt and Ermt, his hammer Mjolnir upon his shoulder. Little Hnossa, the youngest of the dwellers in Asgard, stood beside Heimdall, watcher for the gods and keeper of the bridge to Erda's well, when Odin and Frigga passed through the great gate with bowed heads. Tomorrow, Hnossa heard Odin say, "Tomorrow I shall be Vegtam the Wanderer upon the ways of Midgard and Jotunheim." Video title, Odin the Wanderer, Ancient Paths to Peaceful Sleep. Video intro, welcome, kindred souls, to luminous lore and rituals. If you're seeking a gentle journey into the ancient whispers of mythology for peaceful sleep, focused study, or soulful practice, you are in the perfect place. Settle in, breathe deep, and prepare to wander with Odin. Before we embark, a gentle reminder to like this video and subscribe to Luminous Lore and Rituals, ensuring you don't miss our weekly offerings of mythic storytelling, seasonal rites, and guided meditations designed to calm and inspire. Tonight, we continue our exploration with Odin the Wanderer, Ancient Paths to Peaceful Sleep. Have you ever felt a restless spirit within, a yearning for wisdom that only the journey itself can satisfy? Odin, the All-Father, often shed his grand attire, taking on the guise of a cloaked wanderer. Why would the most powerful of gods choose such a humble path? What secrets did he seek, and what solace did he find on those ancient, winding roads through mist-shrouded forests, long before the dawn of our own memory? Here at Luminous Lore and Rituals, we believe in the power of these timeless tales, delivered with slow, calming narration and visuals steeped in gentle, long-wavelength hues designed to support your evening wind down without disturbing your precious melatonin. Let these ancestral stories, paired with our soothing soundscapes, guide you to a place of relaxation, reflection, and ultimately, peaceful rest. Tonight, let us follow the shadowed footsteps of Odin, discovering the wisdom embedded in his solitary quest.